need help solving a mystery. Ever since I was a kid, anytime they were speaking about slavery or anything like that, I always wondered, where the fuck were the Hispanics at? Which bathroom did we use? Like, why is there never anything about Hispanic people during slave times? Like, I just can't, like, I know I'm not, like, white enough, but I'm not quite black enough either. So, like, where did I land on the spectrum? Because every history teacher I've ever asked, or anyone that's just like a history buff, or if a conversation is ever brought up about slavery, and I ask the question, where were Hispanics? No one ever has the fucking answer. And it has boggled my mind for so long, still to this day, 2025, I don't know the fucking answer. And I need someone to just tell me where we belonged. If you know, please let me know.
Hey yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to tell you about Latinos during slavery. Oh my god. That's what I'm going to tell you. The story is really weird, you know. I just watched all the clips and I got a lot to say. This is not just about history. This is about identity, truth, and how we see each other today. So stay with me. This is American Latinos conversation. You need to hear, oh my god, or you need to understand. Watch the videos and all credit goes to the original owners of the video. I will be back in a few seconds.
Hi Janice, a bunch of people tagged me in your video and I wanted to answer your question. Where were Hispanics or Latinos during slavery? And what happened afterward during segregation? Let's talk about it. The answer is not simple, okay, but it's important. Now, the best way to get an answer to a question like this is through historical inquiry. That's the way that historians look at questions and investigate. You ask real questions and then you look at evidence like letters, newspapers, and other primary and secondary sources. After you review those, you come to some conclusion and you use your critical thinking to come to that conclusion. This process involves asking big questions, looking at evidence, considering context and bias, and then building your own interpretation. And like, this is one of the things that gets me about history, because my whole life I was taught that it's about memorization when it's really not. History is about investigating. So listen, I'm not a historian by training, all right? I did train some classes in history in grad school, but my training is mostly sociological, so I tend to look at things from a higher kind of viewpoint. So think of this as a high-level overview. For those of you who want a detailed historiographic breakdown, I encourage you to follow Dr. Ramiro Contreras, who's also on here and makes content about Latinos and Mexican Americans in Texas, which is a really important site when we're talking about Latinos or Hispanics and slavery. All right, so what were Latinos or Hispanics doing during slavery? Well, it depends, and your question needs to be more specific, which you've already kind of acknowledged through your other videos you've made, Janice. That's because Latino or Hispanic are modern identity and demographic identity markers or demonyms. And slavery in the Americas spans centuries. So when we say slavery and Hispanics, are we talking about people of Spanish and indigenous ancestry in what today is the US? Are we talking about Mexico, Brazil, the Caribbean? What year are we talking about? 1600s, 1800s, Civil War? All right, so in historiography, you have to narrow down the questions a little bit more. Okay, the answer. So some Hispanics, Latinos, whatever you want to call them, were actually enslaved as well, especially those of indigenous heritage during Spanish colonial rule in the Americas. But that type of slavery was not exactly like the chattel slavery that was experienced by people of African ancestry who were in what today is the US. Those folks experienced a type of slavery where they were considered completely unhuman, they were treated like property, and they had no legal rights and no pathway to freedom. Now, some scholars like to argue that in Latin America, slavery was a little bit different because of the Catholic influences from Spain and from Portugal, looked at the indigenous people as childlike and not completely soulless, which is how they viewed people of African heritage. Over time, some people, especially those in the newly acquired territories of what formerly was Mexico and then became the US, opposed slavery after the 1848 annexation because they were previously part of Mexico and Mexico had abolished slavery. Meanwhile, others, especially in Texas and Louisiana, were in favor and supported the Confederacy. Some of them even threw their support behind slave catching enterprises like the Texas Rangers. Not the baseball team, but the slave catching group of people that eventually became the Border Patrol. Now, a larger portion of people also helped formerly enslaved or enslaved Black people escape to Mexico, forming a somewhat of an underground railroad heading south. And that's because during that period, slavery in Mexico was illegal. So the answer is complicated because we were everywhere. There were some of us who were opposing it. There were others who were upholding it. There are some people going back as far as the 1600s who even owned slaves themselves. So the bottom line to your question is that Hispanics during slavery is not one storyline. It's not one history. It's not neat, and it's actually kind of messy. There are many stories within it. Some are empowering, others are painful, and they're very painful because we have to face them. And a lot of us pretend like we weren't part of that, but we were. Now, there are not enough of us who are historians who are studying these things. So it's going to take all of us to go back into archives and look for evidence of these stories and bring them to light. This is why historical inquiry matters. And TikTok can't capture everything that I need to tell you to answer this question. I'm only giving you a very high level overview. But what I am going to encourage you all to do is to go to scholar.google.com, type in the subject that you're interested in, and see what scholarly studies come up. These are peer-reviewed academic articles by people who typically have PhDs who are experts in these subjects, and you can read studies there. Janice, don't let the haters get you down. You're asking valid questions. You just need a little bit of finessing. And let me know what other questions you guys have.
Man, these rows never end, and I'm starving before breakfast.
How's workers' discipline going today?
My whip's gone missing, so I'm improvising new rules on the fly.
How's business today?
They drop in value quicker than a candle's flame at midnight.
Here are some facts that the left likes to leave out when they're teaching about slavery. 1. The first legal slave owner was a Black man. 2. There were Black people that owned slaves, and some of them were plantation owners and owned up to 100 slaves. 3. Native Americans owned slaves. Yes, the Cherokee owned Black slaves. At one point, the Cherokee owned as many as 1,200 Black slaves, and they didn't even free them during the 13th Amendment. 4. During the transatlantic slave trade, only 2% of the Black slaves were actually shipped to the U.S. 5. 40 to 50% of the slaves were sent to Portugal and Brazil. 6. During the Revolutionary War, a lot of the generals actually freed their slaves that fought alongside them because they thought of themselves as hypocrites, because here they were fighting for freedom, yet they had slaves, so they freed their slaves. 6. During the early 1800s, there was an 86% increase in the freedom of slaves, and this was before the 13th Amendment. 7. There were hundreds of white Quakers who were thrown in prison up to 12 years for helping to free the slaves, meaning that they were part of the Underground Railroad and they were thrown in prison for helping to free the slaves. 8. When the North decided to abolish slavery, that represented 3.5 million people who said no to slavery, and that was actually the largest body of people in the world to say no to slavery, the North. 9. There are more people enslaved today than there was during the time of slavery in the U.S. 10. America was exceptional in their abolishment of slavery because they used their own men to free the slaves. Around 250,000 men died to free the slaves.
Okay, first of all, this video blew my mind. Oh no, nobody talks about Latinos and slavery, you know? It's like we are missing from the whole story. Oh my God. Listen carefully. But the truth is, we were there. People from Latin America were part of it too. Some were slaves. Oh my God. Some were slaves owners, and some fought to end it. It's deep. They talked about how slavery didn't just happen in the US. Oh my God, remember that? Slaves didn't happen in the US. It was all over the Americas, places like Mexico's, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and Brazil. all had slaves, and they explain how African people were brought to these places way before the US. Oh my God, this is tragic. This is insane. Even become countries that hit hard. And one thing that shocked me was learning that some Latinos today have African roots and they don't even know it. Oh my God, I'm telling you, they don't even know it. Oh, this is tragic. Like, imagine not knowing your grandmother was Afro-Latina, Afro-Mexican. The school never teach that. Our school there never teach that about slave. We grow up not knowing our full story. Another they talked about was colorism. Oh my God. How in Latino community, dark skin still looked down on. That comes from slavery too. Oh my God. Dark skin. This is very insane. It's not just black and white issue, it's Latino issue too. We gotta be real about that and stop pretending we are all the same. I'm telling you that. Because if we don't know our history, we believe lies. Some Latinos say didn't have slaves. I'm telling you, that's not our problem, but that's not true or real. We were part of it, the good and the bad, and if you understand that, we can be more united and our black brothers and sisters. You know, we can unite with black brothers and our sister today. Oh my God. I think this is powerful. It's not makes anyone feel great. It's to wake us up, to learn the real history, to love all parts of our culture, even parts that are hard. You know, I'm telling you that. We gotta know where we came from to know where we are going. Oh my God, this is very, very, very interesting. If you watched this far, you are part of change. Share this video and drop a comment and tell me how you feel about Latinos and slavery. Oh my God, this is very, very, very crazy. Let's keep this conversation going. This is not just black history, this is Latino history too. You catching? Oh my God. Let's not stay silent, stay safe. I will catch you in the next video. Bye bye.